Well, hey there. Good morning and welcome to today's Saturday Snapshot. I'm going to hopefully make this a little bit shorter than it has been in the past, but I really do like using this opportunity to kind of give you some more information that I can't always give to us on a Sunday morning just because of time constraints. And not only that, this becomes captured and you're able to go back and listen to it again and raise your questions. But it really is intended to be an opportunity to tell you about things that are going on at the church, but also to tell you a little bit about your church and what impact it's having, and some areas that we need to grow and to make an impact into our community. Just a reminder, in case you haven't already noticed, this is we're already into the third month of the new year. That this is 2023. And last year, the kind of statement that I wanted to share for us as a congregation to be in focus in 2022 was to increase our trust capacity of God, to increase our capacity to trust God. And so at the end of 2022, you were invited to say, hey, do I trust God more today than I did yesterday? And as we've moved into 2023, when we had our Wesley Covenant service, the invitation was for us to look at 2023 and say, did I make my life a living sacrifice? And that really comes from the Romans 12 text, to no longer conform to the patterns of this world, to make my life a living sacrifice. And we did that. We started out by saying, hey, that happens when we become intentional and consistent in our prayer life. And we've been having a great study group with our Monks and Fools, Praying Like Monks and Fools reading group. And if you'd like to access that information, see the replays and stuff like that, if you'll go to our website at umcpb.org, and then look under resources where it says prayer, and you'll find that information, the replays of the counts, or how you can purchase the book and read the book. The folks that have been involved have really enjoyed that. And then we talked about this need. We need to remember our identity and history, that it is forever linked to our Jewish heritage. And we talked about the threat that anti-Semitism has to Christianity, and it really has to do with, if we forget that's our identity as Christians. That's our foundation for our faith, that we are all descendants of Abraham. And when we forget that, then we forget what it means to be a Christ-like in the world, and then it's impossible for us to live as living sacrifices. Tomorrow, I'm going to be starting a new sermon series, and in this sermon series, what I'm going to be doing is I want to lay out a strategy for us. I've been using the word reset, but every year I like to do a sermon series that talks about what kind of strategy, what kind of purpose, what kind of mission do we have for our community, for our world, and nothing's changed. I just say it, still. How do I say this? Nothing has changed. Just the words that I use to describe are different each year. And so this year we're looking at the idea that we offer limitless love, God's limitless love to our community. That's another way of saying our mission, our purpose. Let me say it that way. Our purpose is to lead people who are far from God to discover that they are God's beloved. And so this year I'm using the words limitless love. And so tomorrow the first sermon in that series is talking about that for us to be able to offer limitless love for future generations, for decades, a sustainable. We have to have a spirit of generosity. And so tomorrow we're going to look at measuring our capacity to be generous. Speaking of generous, I want to share a number with you. Did you know that from 2012 to 2020, so we're looking at an 8-year period, we received $7.8 million. That over that 8-year period, from 2012 to 2020, you contributed $7.8 million to your church. And I'd invite you to think about, what do we do with $7.8 million? What would you do with $7.8 million? Now, here's the problem. Okay, so in that 8-year period from 2012 to 2020, we spent 10 million, 10 million, 85 over, let me say it this way, over $10 million we spent, right? The numbers are beyond what's normally in my normal checking accounts. I can't quite say it properly. But so we brought in about 7.8 million, but we spent almost 10.1 million. So we have a difference of about $2.2 million. We spent $2.2 million more than we brought in. Now, I'm going to say to you, it's a challenge to offer God's limitless love to our community with that kind of math, right? It's just, you just eventually, and this is where we're at. This is why we're having these conversations now about where we are depleting our reserves in that context. It would be like, I remember one day I went into Subway wanting to get a Subway sandwich. And if you remember, Subway used to put on their commercials, we make our bread right here on the site. And I went in to order a Subway sandwich, and they told me they were out of bread. I'm like, how are you out of bread when you make your own bread? It's like going to a gas station and being told that they're out of gas. That's pretty frustrating. It's very disappointing. Well, if a church is not able to sustain its generosity, if it's not able to maintain its ministries so that it can offer God's limitless love, then we're like a Subway with no bread. Here's some other numbers I want you to think about. So from 2012 to 2018, we had 127 professions of faith. That means 127 people over an 8-year period said for the very first time, they publicly announced that they were going to be followers of Christ. That now this could be infant baptisms where parents have said that for them and they become part of the church. It can also be youth going through confirmation classes, but it can also be adults that are coming into the church, joining the church for the very first time and making a public profession of faith. And so over an 8-year period, we had 127 of those. That's about 16 a year, somewhere in that ballpark. Now, another way of looking at when we hear the term professions of faith, this is really one of those statistics where we measure the health of a church, right? Because that's the church is in the business. I don't mean that word but I mean what our mission is, what our purpose is to make disciples. And so we're saying over an 8-year period that we made 127 disciples. Now, 127 is better than 0, right? But here's another number I want you to think about. For every one profession of faith, we spent $61,417. So we could say, every time we spend $61,000, our return on that kind of spending should be one profession of faith. Again, I'm going to say to you, it's hard to offer God's limitless love to our community with that kind of math. We've got to change our math, and to do that, we've got to reset. We've got to reinvent who we are as a church, this post-COVID church, right? And we got to rethink about our fundamentals, what it means for us to be a member of this church and how we're expected to show up and anticipate where God wants to lead us. And so one of the things I need you to do is make every effort to join us Monday evening at 6:30 here on the campus to hear about our church health finances. Right, I'm going to be doing the leadership of the church will be there, the finance team will be there, and I'm going to be doing this presentation, going a little bit deeper into these numbers and helping us understand why it is that we've made the cuts that we've made, the adjustments that we've made, in order for us to start living within our means, but then also talking to you about the importance of you really stepping up, not only in your giving, but also in your showing up and volunteering and being a part of the ministries. Because if we are not engaged in our community, we are going to miss what God is doing. And if we're not hearing and seeing what God's doing, we will not have the privilege of leading people into a relationship with God. And if we're not leading people into a relationship with God, then we're like a Subway with no bread. Then I also need you to put on your calendars March 16th at 4 p.m. That time is still a little bit tentative, but right now it's pretty close to rock solid. But on that Thursday, March 16th, we will have a charge conference. Now, at the charge conference, there are specific people who have a vote, but everybody has a voice. And that charge conference is for one specific item only. And there will be discussion. And the reason for the charge conference is that I will be taking a reduction in pay. That reduction in pay is part of this reset for the financial health of our church. And so we have to vote on that, just as you vote on what my salary will be. You have to also vote on my reduction in pay. I want you to know that I'm the one who initiated that. Not the charge conference. I'm the one who initiated wanting to take a reduction in pay. So it's not outside forces. It's not the cabinet. It's not the leadership coming to me and saying, "Hey, we're going to need you to do that." So there's no arm twisting in that. That is me, really trying to set the example for all of us to take a look at how are we going to be a church that continues to offer God's limitless love for decades to go. Okay, so again, we're starting a new sermon series tomorrow. We'll celebrate communion together tomorrow, and this whole sermon series is really to set the foundation for how I see us resetting, how we build on the legacy that we've inherited. And many of you that are part of this church have been part of that building process, and many of us are new to it, and we have a responsibility to be good stewards of all that we have been given. And so I hope you'll make every effort to join us in person or online to hear the messages. Tomorrow we start with this limitless love requires generosity, and we'll talk more about that, and then be intentional about joining us Monday evening to hear a deeper dive into the church finance, the church finances. And then please pay attention to the things that are in the bulletin. There are a lot of good things that are happening, that are going on. Manu is going to be having his youth and student, or child and youth student protection and mentor training, tomorrow. Again, we cannot reach children, we cannot reach youth, we cannot reach parents if we don't have enough volunteers. We can only go as deep as the number of volunteers that we have. And so I need you to say, "Hey, God, I'm with you. I'm ready for this." And speaking of that, we have a wonderful outreach to our special needs community, and they've got a dinner and magic show coming up on March 24th, which will include a silent auction, then the Enchanted Evening. So again, we're looking for you all to say, "Count me in. I'm here to make disciples." So hey, friends, I've got to run out the door to go and gather up with a bunch of folks who are on the campus with the trustees, and looking forward to being with them. But more than that, I'm really looking forward to being with you tomorrow. And I pray God's blessings upon you for the remainder of this day. And hey, I know the news is a little challenging. I know the math doesn't always excite us, but it's good to know where we're at so that we have a really good idea where we want to go. And I look forward to being with you and hopefully guiding that process. So have a great Saturday, and make plans to be with us tomorrow. See you then. Bye.